Thomas Hobbes was one of the most influential thinkers of the 17th century, a time marked by political upheaval, scientific discovery, and philosophical revolution. His ideas on human nature, materialism, and self-preservation shaped not only political philosophy, but also had a lasting impact on psychology, particularly in our understanding of motivation and behavior. Born in 1588 in England, Hobbes lived through one of the most turbulent periods in British history. His lifetime spanned the English Civil War, a conflict between monarchy and parliamentary forces that profoundly influenced his thinking. He was educated at Oxford University, where he studied the classical works of Aristotle and other ancient philosophers. However, it was his later travels through Europe and encounters with contemporary scientific thought that shaped his materialistic and mechanistic worldview. Hobbes was deeply influenced by the intellectual climate of the 17th century, particularly by figures such as Galileo Galilei, René Descartes, and Francis Bacon. These thinkers were redefining science and philosophy, emphasizing observation, empirical methods, and rational thought over the church-mandated ways of thinking. One of Hobbes' most significant intellectual relationships was with René Descartes, the French philosopher known for his statement, "I think, therefore I am." While Descartes maintained a strict dualism between mind and body, Hobbes rejected this distinction. He argued that everything, including human thought and emotions, could be explained through material processes. Hobbes' philosophy was deeply shaped by the scientific developments of his time. He was particularly influenced by the mechanistic view of the universe, which held that everything, including human beings, operates like a machine governed by physical laws. This perspective led to two of his most important psychological ideas: materialism and self-preservation. Hobbes was one of the first thinkers to propose a strictly materialistic understanding of human thought and behavior. He fully rejected the idea that humans possessed an immaterial soul, as proposed by many religious and philosophical traditions, Descartes being one of them. Instead, he argued that all mental processes, thoughts, emotions, desires, were the result of physical interactions in the brain and body. For Hobbes, sensations and thought were simply motions in the brain, caused by external stimuli. This mechanistic view of the mind anticipated later developments in neuroscience and psychology, particularly in behaviorism, which sought to explain human actions in terms of observable physical processes. One of Hobbes' most influential ideas was that human behavior is fundamentally driven by self-preservation. He argued that, in a state of nature, without laws or government, humans would act solely in their own self-interest, leading to what he famously described as a war of all against all. According to Hobbes, the fear of death and the desire for security drive humans to create societies and submit to an absolute authority, a sovereign or a government, to escape this chaotic state. He believed that a strong centralized power was necessary to maintain order and prevent humans from acting purely on their own selfish instincts. Hobbes argued that fear was one of the most powerful emotions guiding human behavior. He believed that all human actions, even those that appear altruistic, ultimately stem from self-interest and the avoidance of pain or harm. This perspective aligns with later psychological theories on avoidance behavior, which suggests that much of human decision-making is shaped by the desire to minimize suffering and maximize security. His view of motivation can be compared to modern theories in psychology, such as drive theory, which suggests that human behavior is motivated by the need to satisfy biological and psychological needs, including hunger, thirst, and safety. Hobbes' ideas about materialism, motivation, and the role of fear influenced not only political philosophy, but also early psychological theories. While he was not a psychologist in the modern sense, this mechanistic view of the human mind laid the groundwork for later developments in psychology and cognitive science. Hobbes believed that human behavior could be explained through physical causes, anticipated the emergence of behaviorism in the 20th century. Behaviorists like John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner argued that human actions are shaped by environmental stimuli and reinforcement rather than by innate moral or spiritual forces, an idea that closely aligns with Hobbes' materialistic view of human nature. His work also influenced the field of social psychology, particularly in understanding authority and obedience. His idea that humans seek security through submission to authority can be seen in later psychological studies such as Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments in the 1960s, which demonstrated how individuals are willing to follow orders from an authority figure, even when it conflicts with their personal morals. More on that in a different video. In a very similar fashion, his thoughts on fear and social order connect to Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment, which examined how power dynamics influence human behavior in controlled environments. Hobbes' ideas remain relevant in contemporary discussions about authoritarianism, governance, and human rights. His argument that strong leadership is necessary to prevent chaos has been used both to justify authoritarian rule and to argue for the importance of a balance between security and freedom. His work is frequently referenced in discussions about the psychology of fear in politics, particularly in how governments use fear to justify control. Thomas Hobbes was a philosopher ahead of his time. His materialistic view of the human mind, his emphasis on self-preservation, and his exploration of fear and authority continue to influence psychology, political science, and philosophy. While his perspective on human nature as selfish and driven by fear has been challenged by later thinkers like John Locke, his insights remain a cornerstone in our understanding of motivation and social behavior. His legacy reminds us that the forces that drive human behavior, fear, self-interest, and the search for security, are as relevant today as they were in the 17th century. Thanks for watching.